Well, that was top tier football that we just got. That was high level football from two teams that, like I said earlier, this game had serious divisional ramifications for both teams. Like Green Bay, if they won this game, they had a serious chance of winning the division, and it ended up being a good shootout. Like we ended up getting a really good fantasy game. It was kind of what I noticed, at least, was kind of condensed between just a couple of players in particular, which is a little shocking. Coming into the night, obviously I thought there was lots of options that were going to do well, but obviously we're going to go through it. Starting out with the Packers side, but make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support while you are here. So let's just start out with the Packers side of the ball. Jordan Love ends up having a pretty underwhelming night for fantasy. I mean, he had, depending on your format, 12 to 15 points. So, this isn't going to win your week or anything like that. You're going to have to get a lot more than just relying on Jordan Love in order for you to win the week, which was never going to be, it was never going to be like that, right? Jordan Love was never going to carry you to victory in week 14. And if you were relying on that, then I don't know what to say. I have no idea what to tell you if you're relying on Jordan Love. I think that, he's obviously not going to kill your week because he actually had some rushing yards too, 2.3 points, through rushing. So it wasn't the worst night that Jordan Love had. It's definitely not one of his best, though. So Jordan Love, I think in the future, what we've seen from this team is that they've shifted more towards the running. And that's exactly what the Packers have become. They've become more run first than anything else. So that's why Josh Jacobs goes off tonight, right? He has 3 touchdowns on the ground. And actually, a 4th one got called back late in the game. Literally, he caught a 4th receiving touchdown, and it got called back. Because there was some sort of hold. I can't remember the call, but he had 4 touchdowns tonight. One of them getting called back. So that was big time, performance for Josh Jacobs. And again, you look at his numbers right here, and it's not like he was fantastic. 18 carries for 66 yards and not a single catch. When you take away that touchdown catch that he had, he didn't have a single catch. So Josh Jacobs 100% is just on a heater right now. And that's why I said in the running back rank just that you can't rank this guy too low. This is a situation where you can't rank him too low because of the heater that he's on. And again, like I said, this is a team that wants to run the ball. This is not a fluke what's going on with Josh Jacobs. I don't think Jordan Love's fully healthy right now. And I think that they're realizing the asset that they signed before the season is fully healthy and ready to go. And he looks fantastic. I mean, he's got to be a top 3 running back over the last 2 months or so. Month and a half, 2 months. Josh Jacobs has to be a top 3 running back, if not number 1. So, it's just great to see Josh Jacobs. And that guy has monopolized the backfield. Marshawn Lloyd has obviously missed a ton of time this year. Even if he comes back, it doesn't freaking matter. Josh Jacobs is the workhorse there. Now let's go to receiving. Obviously, with Jordan Love only having 206 passing yards, this is going to be not exactly fun, especially when I get to one particular player who I started myself and told some people to start. But Christian Watson, 4 catches, 114 yards. Had a really particular big play that kind of opened up their half in the second half. That was a situation with Christian Watson where I think it was a 60-yard gain or something like that. And that's always possible. With Christian Watson, that's a player in particular that can always give you this type of performance. It's always going to be either, 14 to 15 points and up towards the 30 range or 0. That's what we can get from Christian Watson, man. So with Christian Watson, nothing changes as far as my narrative of the player in particular, because this guy, I understand, is very streaky. That's just his nature as a fantasy player. And nothing changes after tonight. It was a great night for him. I'm glad that we got to see it. But ultimately, do I trust this guy? Not in particular. Now, with Dontavian Wicks, I did have some people ask me about him as a deep shot to take this week, and I thought it was a solid play. And he ended up doing well. 4 catches for 49 yards. So full PPR, you're getting basically 9 points out of that. Which, again, if you're in deeper leagues, you could do a lot worse than Dontavian Wicks. Obviously, I would never advise you to play Dontavian Wicks over Jameson Williams, who we'll get to in here in a little bit. Or to play him over somebody like, I wouldn't have told you to play him over Jaden Reed, who we'll discuss here in a minute. But Dontavian Wicks does just fine. In deeper leagues, you could do a lot worse on Dontavian Wicks. Tucker Kraft gets back in the end zone. And I said this before the game. The good thing with Tucker Kraft is that what you can expect from him is that he is, his how do I put this? His target share is low, right? But he is so consistent with it. He gets high percentage throws, and they're a lot of times at the red zone. So with Tucker Kraft, his fantasy upside is relatively safe for me. Obviously he has upside of 15 to 18 points. He doesn't go too crazy because he doesn't get tons of targets. But as low as the guy's target share is, he's kind of become a little bit of a safe option at the tight end position. So with Tucker Kraft, I know he goose-egged a couple weeks back, but this is a guy that I have a lot of, confidence in. And I'll say this, I think it's a great segue into Jaden Reed. Obviously, Jaden Reed goose eggs tonight. I told people to play Jaden Reed, and I apologize for that. However, I don't apologize for the process. I played him myself in a dynasty league, and I would do it again. If I could go back in time before this game, obviously, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't play him, but nothing changes about the process of Jaden Reed here. This is what I just said with Tucker Kraft. Jaden Reed in particular, he has such a unique role in this offense. So, obviously, tonight was bad, right? This was his first goose egg I can remember since his rookie year. He hasn't goose egged once this year outside of tonight. So, this was his obviously first goose egg of the year. And it was very strange to watch because, I was watching him and, I don't know how many snaps he played, what percentage, but I can't imagine it was much more than 55 or 60% of the snaps. So, Jaden Reed, I don't think he was even in there particularly very much tonight. But again, I know that I'm going to have people, I already see tons of Jaden Reed discussion going on here. I get it, guys. I totally understand it. It sucks to get, crapped on with a goose egg by a player who has tons of upside. No, you do not drop Jaden Reed. This guy can go off. So, like I said, the process I still believe in when you're talking about a player like Jaden Reed. Because Christian Watson, yeah, he shined tonight, but he can easily give you 0 points next week. He's done it before this year. He's done it throughout his career. So Jaden has been the most consistent wide receiver as far as getting you consistent floor and also upside in this wide receiver room. So no, I'm not dropping Jaden Reed, and I would play him a lot. I'm probably going to tell you guys to play him again come playoff time. I get it. It sucks. And it really, especially when you're on this channel, who I don't know where other fantasy YouTubers have him ranked, but I probably have Jaden Reed ranked a lot higher than most people do on a more consistent basis. So yeah, I get it. It sucks, but the process with Jaden Reed is still the same. It was just an unfortunate result tonight. Now let's go to the Lions side. Jared Goff actually turns in a really good fantasy performance. 283 yards through the air, through 41 times, completed 32 of them, 3 touchdowns and a pick. And the pick was ugly. I will say that. The pick was definitely ugly, but, this guy threw 3 touchdowns, and 2 of them to a guy that I thought was dead in fantasy football, and we'll get to him in here a little bit. But Jared Goff has a good night. And really, this is the good thing with Jared Goff is that he's so consistent, right? I get it. That one night was weird against Houston where he threw 5 picks. I think that was Sunday Night Football several weeks back where he threw 5 picks in that game. That's really unlike Jared Goff. He's been really consistent throughout the entire year. And, really throughout the past 2-3 years in fantasy. Jared Goff has been consistent. Never going to give you massive games outside of maybe 1 to 2 games per year. But Jared Goff is a great guy to have in like a best ball format. And I keep telling you guys to get into playoff best ball on Underdog. I've already drafted a couple of those leagues. Jared Goff is a great name for that. Because this guy, the Lions have a good shot at making the Super Bowl, and Jared Goff is going to be consistently getting you like 20 to 25 points. Jared Goff is that guy if you're looking for a consistent answer at the quarterback position. Now, running backs. Dave Montgomery gets back in the end zone. What more can you expect? I mean, this guy literally is a touchdown lock essentially every single week. I mean, there's nothing new with Dave Montgomery. I said this leading into the week, and I've been saying it realistically for a while now. When it comes to Dave Montgomery, don't expect me to try to make stuff up, right? Like, I'm not going to make things up just to talk about something fresh from Montgomery. This is what he is. Like, he rarely, and I don't think he even has this year, had like a 25-point game. Last year he had a couple, I think. But this year, like, he hasn't been that explosive or anything. He had 3.6 yards on the ground. Green Bay actually did a pretty good job stopping the run, to be honest with you. But, like, realistically, like, Montgomery is a touchdown lock. Because this offensive line is so strong. He gets the goal line opportunities. Like, it's not a question whether he has upside or not. Like, his upside is tied to the touchdown. And it's a lock every single week. So you can always count on a consistent touchdown rushing from Dave Montgomery. Dave Montgomery ends up getting he had 5 catches for 33 yards. That's a good night in fantasy. Yeah, that's a good night in fantasy for Dave Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 43 yards, 2.9 yards per carry. This was a situation where I think it just outlines how good the Packers defense was tonight. Like, realistically, I think that this defense deserves a lot of credit. The Packers defense against the run kind of thwarted what Detroit usually wins at. And this is how good Detroit is. Like, they obviously win the game because this is a complete football team this year. Like, if they're not Super Bowl favorites in your mind, it's hard to bet against Kansas City. Buffalo looks good too. But, like, Detroit, their team is so complete because their 2 running backs are fantastic, and neither of them averaged 4 yards a carry tonight. Like, that's pretty good work by the Packers defense right there. But Jahmyr Gibbs ultimately comes out with a good fantasy day because he gets in the end zone, 6 catches for 30 yards. And the route, dude, if you did not see the route that Jahmyr Gibbs ran, man, Jahmyr Gibbs ran a serious route, man. I mean, it was a fantastic route, and he had that defender, like, he juked him out of his shoes. I mean, the cut that he made on that route for that touchdown catch was awesome. It was awesome to watch. Again, this is why, like, when people were upset last week on Thanksgiving when the Bears shut down Jahmyr Gibbs, and it really wasn't even the Bears. Like, last week he actually just kind of got less volume. But nonetheless, like, Gibbs doesn't have a good fantasy day, and people were up in arms about it. And it's like, guys, this guy has carried a lot of teams this year. You can't just, like, get upset with him this late in the year and start questioning whether you play this guy. Like, are you kidding me? I saw a couple people doing that, and I was like, guys, don't lose your minds right now. Like, this is the time of the year where you need to keep your head on a swivel and play your best. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of your best. So, obviously, it wasn't the greatest statistical night running the ball, but he gets in the end zone again, and he still gets the receiving work. That's what you can count on with Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, going to the receiving game, Jameson Williams has a pretty good night. And I've been kind of saying this for a while, actually, in regards to Jameson Williams, is that, you know, the beginning of the season and, like, heading into the season, I think the majority of us in fantasy really looked at Jaden Reed. He's still in my brain because he absolutely laid an egg tonight. We looked at Jameson Williams as a big play threat. Like, he wasn't ever looked at as like, oh, this guy's going to, like, eat into Amon-Ra St. Brown's target share. We were like, no, he's going to get, like, friggin', 5 targets max on a per game basis. Well, if you actually look at Jameson Williams' game log and his target share, like, it's actually, he's becoming more than just, like, a big play threat to give, like, a shot of life to this offense, like adrenaline. No, like he's actually become like a serious like staple in this passing game. 5 catches for 80 yards tonight. So the way you look at Jameson Williams, in my opinion, you start to honestly consider this guy in the same tier of Devonta Smith, of somebody like he's above Jalen Waddle, but like you see what I'm saying, right? Like the wide receiver 2 on a really good passing offense is a good fantasy option, like a top 20 wide receiver. That's what Jameson Williams has become. Now, he doesn't get in the end zone. He doesn't have a big play. But, like, if you watched a lot of those catches tonight, they were, probably like 10 yards down the field. He caught the ball, and he's so blazing fast that he just, like, runs by the defense for another 20 yards. Like, that's what he can do for you. So, Jameson Williams at this point, like, he's obviously a high-end flex, but, like, at this point, like, you can start to look at this guy as, like, a low-end wide receiver 2 in fantasy. That's what he is. Jameson Williams is real. Laporta ends up having a good night as a tight end. Again, you can't ask for much from the tight end position. So 5 catches for 54 yards. That's actually going to end up being a pretty good week for Sam Laporta. And he's such a hard player, man. It's been so like, if you look at Laporta's season from like a general perspective, it's not been that bad. But obviously, because of where you drafted him and what the expectations were based on the rookie year, it's been a massive disappointment. And the unfortunate part about it is that, a lot of people have moved off of Sam Laporta at this point, and they've already found different options to go with. And honestly, I don't blame people for doing that. But I will say this, if you still have Laporta on your roster, he's not going to be a bad tight end play a lot of the times. Tonight was kind of an indicator of that. Who remembers this name? Tim Patrick. Well, I guess welcome back. I will say this. The thing with Tim Patrick is that I want to be happy for the guy because, like, he's fought back from massive injuries. He's had some really serious injuries over the years with Achilles, and I think his knee tore up last year. Like, he's had a rough go of it. And at one time, he looked like potentially the best wide receiver with the Denver Broncos. Now, they cut him, and then Detroit signs him this offseason, and I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, this is just a depth signing. It won't mean anything. Well, Patrick has actually played a pretty steady role. And again, I wish I could come out here and be really happy for Tim Patrick tonight, but the problem is that nobody started him. Nobody probably is rostering him. There's no way he's more than 1% rostered across all fantasy platforms. There's no way. So, like, nobody played Tim Patrick tonight. If you drafted him in best ball, congratulations. Your team got, freaking 20-plus points from a totally new player this week. So, good job for Tim Patrick. I don't know what to think. Like, honestly, I can't. I'm not going to overreact to say, like, yes, he needs to be a flex consideration. We'll look into it and, like, continue to watch it, but, like, I don't see myself straying away from, like, a Jameson Williams, for example. That's the thing. It's like, realistically, you're not going to sit him on Ross St. Brown. Even though he had a rough go of it tonight, 5 catches for 43 yards. Like, that's not his best. And really, like, after watching him in that, like, first drive, I thought Amon-Ra St. Brown was in for a big night. I would imagine a lot of us watching it on our couch tonight, we're like, oh, dude, Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to have, like, a 20-point game. He's already been targeted, like, 5 times in the first, the first quarter. Amon-Ra, this just shows how complete their team is. And it becomes a problem in fantasy football when you're not the only option. Like Jamar Chase in Cincinnati and T. Higgins. They're the options with Chase Brown. Like, that's what you've got. You don't have a collection of all this. Well, in Detroit, you've got Jameson Williams, you got Sam Laporta, Tim Patrick, your 2 running backs. So one of these guys, realistically, is going to give you a down week every single week. Not every one of them can go off for fantasy production. And that, unfortunately, is the problem with Amon-Ra St. Brown and what we've seen over the past month in particular, is that sometimes he's the guy that doesn't do anything. Do I think about it too much? No. He's still a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. You continue to play him. That's the reality. So I appreciate y'all being in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We've got a couple super chats waiting, so I just wanted to see them. Appreciate y'all's patience. Steve512, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. I clinched a playoff berth. Well, let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. Man, I'm looking forward to winning the playoffs with you guys this year. Who's ready to win a freaking championship, man? It is championship time. And I think I'm in playoffs, and I'm fighting for playoffs in one league. 2 leagues, actually, that are redraft / dynasty, fighting for playoffs. All of the other ones got them locked up. So I'm with it. I'm in the ride with you guys, man. That's how you know that I've got tons of passion for this game. Like, I love this game. You see a lot of fantasy YouTubers wearing down around this time. I love this game. I appreciate being a help along the way. So let's actually win it. Appreciate the super chat. And Dizzy B, appreciate the super chat. I see ya. Reed with 1 target. Yeah, like I said, I discussed it probably midway through the stream. So if you want a full breakdown, you can go do that. But what I'll end on is this. With Jaden Reed, I'll circle back to him. So Jaden Reed obviously gets 1 target tonight and puts up a goose egg, right? I don't apologize for the process of playing Jaden Reed. What other games this year has Jaden Reed come out with 1 target? It doesn't happen very much. Jaden Reed has had 2 targets twice this year, but even on 2 targets, like, he's able to do well in fantasy football. The process of playing Jaden Reed is stressful. Trust me, I get it. Like, I've got Jaden Reed in a dynasty league, and he's basically in every week start for me. Is that the smartest thing? Maybe not. But I also am a risk taker in fantasy because I know when you look at the upside, it's in excess of 20, 30 points sometimes. That's what Jaden Reed can do. So for me personally, I get it. It sucks. Tonight was bad. But again, realistically, like, if I could go back in time and not know what I know now, I would tell you guys to play Jaden Reed again. And there will be weeks moving forward where I tell you guys to play Jaden Reed because Jaden Reed has the upside. And not only does he have the upside, he's been the most consistent Green Bay wide receiver with upside. And the bottom line is, in this offense in Green Bay, you want a wide receiver in this offense. Because Jordan Love tonight threw 200 yards. It's not very many, especially when you're calling Jordan Love. Like, Jordan Love has the potential to throw for 4. 4 Bills easy. So they've got matchups here in the future that are not Detroit. They've got Minnesota coming up again. Like, that's a matchup I'm going to be playing Jaden Reed in, and I will tell you guys to play Jaden. It sucks tonight. Again, if you want to see the full Jaden Reed breakdown, I broke it down probably midway through the stream. But that's what I'll leave you guys on. And I appreciate the super chat, Dizzy B, and I appreciate y'all being in here. Tomorrow, kicker rankings for sure. And maybe a bonus video. See you guys tomorrow. Appreciate y'all being in here.